The wedding had been nothing short of extravagant, a display of wealth and power rather than love. Crystal chandeliers glittered above the grand hall, violins played softly in the background, and hundreds of eyes followed your every step, yet despite the lavish setting, your heart felt hollow. You were now Mrs. Joan Jungkook, the wife of the cold, feared Mafia hero. He stood at the altar like a statue carved from stone. His sharp jaw set, his eyes unreadable. He didn't reach for your hand, didn't smile, didn't whisper sweet promises. He simply played the role as though the ceremony was a transaction rather than the beginning of a life together. Later that evening, in the mansion's dimly lit bedroom, silence settled heavily between you. You sat on the edge of the massive bedstead in your wedding dress, fingers twisting the fabric nervously. Jungkook leaned against the window frame, his tie loosened, a glass of whiskey swirling in his hand. His gaze was cold, distant, like he wasn't truly here. Finally, he broke the silence. You should know something before we start this farce of a marriage. Your heart stuttered. His tone wasn't cruel, but it carried a weight that pressed down on you. You looked up, trying to read his expression. What do you mean? Jungkook's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. I didn't choose this. My family forced it. I had someone before you, someone I wanted, but marrying you meant giving her up. The words hit like a slap, though his voice remained calm, almost emotionless. You swallowed hard, forcing composure. So, you hate me for it? He took a sip of whiskey, his dark eyes locking on yours. I don't hate you. Don't mistake me for a man who takes out his bitterness on an innocent woman. You'll have everything you need: respect, protection, a roof over your head. But love? He set the glass down, walking closer until he stood right in front of you. His presence was overwhelming, the scent of smoke and whiskey clinging to him. Don't expect it. And one more thing. He crouched slightly, his voice lowering, almost venomous in his honesty. I hate kids. I don't want them. And now, not never. If you are hoping this marriage will give you a family, forget it. Do you remember? Your throat tightened, you nodded slowly, even though your heart raced. Yes, I understand. For a long moment, he stared at you. His gaze wasn't cruel, but it was distant, locked behind invisible walls. Finally, he straightened and turned away, unbuttoning his cuffs as if dismissing you from the conversation. Good, get some rest tomorrow. Life as my wife begins, and it won't be easy. The lights went out shortly after, leaving you laying awake in the wash bed while Chungu claimed the couch on the far side of the room. The distance between you wasn't just physical, it was a chasm of coldness, of unspoken truths. And though you were now his wife, you felt more like a stranger imprisoned in the shadow of his past. Days turned into weeks, and you began to learn what it meant to be Jungkook's wife. The mansion was grand, but it felt like a gilded cage, its high ceilings echoing with silence, its long corridors stretching like endless reminders of your loneliness. Jungkook rarely spoke more than necessary. His words were short, sharp, never wise, but cutting nonetheless. One evening, he stepped into the dining room only to find a steaming plate already set at the head of the table. Chunguk sat across from you, scrolling through his phone, barely looking up. You had the staff prepare this? Jungkook finally lifted his eyes, calm and unreadable. You skipped lunch. I don't want you fainting under my roof. You noticed that? He raised up, rose, setting his phone down. I notice everything fine. Don't mistake silence for ignorance. The words were not tender, but they stirred something in you, a realization that his cold exterior hid a constant awareness of you. Another night you sat curled on the sofa, shivering against the draft slipping in through the tall windows. Jungkook walked past without a word, disappearing down the hall. Minutes later, he returned, tossing a heavy black coat over your shoulders. You didn't have to. Stop talking and keep it on, you will get sick. You blinked up at him, your lips parting to respond, but he had already turned away, retreating back into his world of silence. Yet, for all his gestures, the distance remained. Jungkook often came home long past midnight, his suit jacket wrinkled, his shirt faintly smelling of smoke and whiskey. You would hear the low creak of the front door, his footsteps echoing through the marble floors, and then the soft thud of him collapsing onto the couch instead of joining you in bed. Sometimes, in those quiet hours, you had sensed his gaze on you, pretending to sleep. You felt the weight of his eyes linger, almost as if he wanted to say something. But before you could gather the courage to confront him, his footsteps would retreat, leaving the room clocked in silence again. The rain poured mercilessly against the tall windows, the storm outside echoing the turmoil that brewed inside the mansion. He sat curled up on the sofa, a blanket around his shoulders, staring at the clock as the minutes crawled into hours. Chunguk was late again. It had become routine. His return long past midnight, his presence heavy with exhaustion and secrets. But tonight was different. The front door slammed open with a force that made you flinch. Jungkook stumbled in, the sound of his shoes uneven against the marble floor. His tie hung loose around his neck, the top buttons of his shirt undone, his dark hair damp from the rain. The scent of alcohol hit you before he even reached the living room. You are drunk? He didn't answer right away. His eyes were glassy, darker than usual, and for once they were not unreadable. They were burning, restless, carrying a storm of their own. His jaw tightened as he swayed slightly, his hand bracing against the door frame before pushing himself toward you. So what if I am? His voice was lower, rougher, like the whiskey had scraped against his throat. He dragged a hand through his wet hair, breathing heavy. The carefully constructed mask he always wore was gone, replaced by a rawness you had never seen. You rose slowly from the sofa, unsure whether to approach or keep your distance. You should go rest. Jungkook let out a bitter laugh, his steps pulling him closer until his shadow loomed over you. He reached out suddenly, his hand wrapping around your wrist, not harsh but firm enough to keep you from stepping away. Rest, do you know what that feels like in my work? I don't sleep fine, I fight, I play, I lose everything I actually want. And then I come back here to you. His words pierced you, though they were not spoken with cruelty. They were drenched in anguish, in frustration, in longing he couldn't admit. His grip softened slightly, his thumb brushing your pulse. Then why come home at all? Chunguk's breath hitched, his eyes narrowing as if the question shook something deep inside him. He leaned closer, the smell of whiskey strong, his lips hovering just inches away. Because you're here. The words escaped like a confession he hadn't mean to voice. His hand slid from your wrist to your cheek, rough palm trembling against your skin. His gaze flickered to your lips, then back to your eyes, as if asking for permission he would never directly request. Don't look at me like I'm untouchable. Don't pretend I don't want this. Your heart pounded wildly, torn between fear and desire. For so long he had kept his distance, building walls so high you had convinced yourself he would never let you in. But that night, in the haze of alcohol and unspoken need, Jungkook broke his own rules. His hands pulled you closer as though he had been starved for this contact, as though his coldness had always been a mask of something much deeper. And though you knew he would regret it come morning, you didn't pull away, you let him tear down his walls, let him unravel in your arms, knowing this night would change everything. When dawn finally broke, Jungkook was gone. Only the faint scent of whiskey lingered in the shades, but the weight of his confession haunted you because you were here. After that night, Jungkook changed. He didn't tell or accuse you. He never raised his voice, but his distance grew sharper, colder. He avoided your eyes at breakfast, came home later than usual, and when he did, he went straight to his study instead of even glancing your way. You knew why he remembered. And for a man like him, so controlled, so careful, the fact that he had let himself slip, that he had touched you in a haze of alcohol, must have been unbearable. The shame showed in the way he couldn't meet your eyes, but that he didn't know was that this one night of weakness had left you carrying something that terrified you more than his sadness ever could. You were pregnant. The word echoed in your mind like a whisper that grew louder each day. You would stand in the bathroom in the early mornings, clutching the sink as nausea twisted your stomach. You learned to mask your fatigue, forcing a small smile at the staff, pretending you were not lightheaded. At dinner, when cravings struck, you pushed food around your plate, feigning disinterest, and when your clothes began to grow tired, you folded yourself into loose dresses, letting the flowing fabric hide the swell of your belly. But at night, when you lay alone in the washed bed, you placed a trembling hand over your stomach and whispered the words you could never say aloud. I'm scared. What if he hates you too? The secret lasted longer than you expected. Jungkook remained distant, though you sometimes caught him staring in moments he thought you were not looking. Yet he said nothing, and you forced yourself to believe that perhaps you could keep hiding until one evening after 5 months. He returned earlier than usual, the sound of his footsteps echoing through the marble halls. You were in the bedroom, struggling to fasten the buttons of your coat before the mirror. When the door creaked open, Jungkook stopped in the doorway. His eyes narrowed, not with anger but with something else, confusion, disbelief. His gaze dropped to where the fabric strained around the curve of your stomach. For the first time since you were married, Jungkook's composure cracked. His whiskey dark eyes widened, his lips parting as though words failed him. What is that? Your throat closed up, panic rushing through you. You took a step back, your hands instinctively moving to shield your bum. Jungkook, I can explain. He moved forward slowly like a man approaching a truth he didn't want to face. His hand twisted at his side as though he wanted to reach out but couldn't bring himself to. Tell me it's not what I think it is. Your eyes filled with tears, his old words ringing in your head. I hate kids. I don't want them. Not now, not ever. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. For a long moment, silence pressed down on the room. You braced yourself for his anger, for his rejection. But when he finally spoke, his voice wasn't sharp. It was unsteady, almost broken. You are carrying my child. Your tears spilled over, and you nodded. Too afraid to speak, he froze there, his chest rising and falling heavily, emotions swirling in his eyes, fear, anger, something softer he tried desperately to hide. The cold mask he had worn since the day you met slipped away, and for once John Chungkook looked human. I told you I didn't want this. His voice cracked on the last word. He turned away, pressing a hand to his mouth as if he were suffocating under the weight of something he couldn't name. And in that moment, you realized he wasn't just angry, he was afraid. The silence after his discovery stretched like a blade between you. Chungkook's back was torn, his shoulders rigid, his hand pressed to his mouth as though the weight of your secret suffocated him. Finally, he spoke, his voice raw. Tell me everything now. Your chest tightened, the words trembled out in broken sobs, your hands shaking as you clutched the swell of your belly. I didn't mean to hide. I was just so scared. Jungkook, you told me you hated kids. I thought if you knew, you would hate me too, or worse, you would hate the baby. Tears blurred your vision, your voice cracking under the weight of your fear. But it's your child, our child, and I can't get rid of it. No matter how much you say you don't want it, I already love this baby. The room fell into silence. For a man known for his composure, Jungkook looked utterly shattered. He turned slowly, his eyes locking onto yours, and for the first time you saw something deeper than coldness, pain. He stepped closer, his voice lower, trembling. Do you know why I said I hated kids? You shook your head, breath hitching. Because I was one once, and no one loved me. Not the way a child deserves. I swore I would never bring a life into this world just to destroy it the way mine was destroyed. Your heart ached as his confession cut through you. His hatred wasn't for children, it was for the past that haunted him. The walls he built were not meant to keep you out, but to keep his own pain from spilling over. Tears pricked your eyes again. You reached out, your trembling fingers brushing against his hand. Then maybe this is your chance to do it differently. Chunguk's jaw tightened, his breath unsteady. And then slowly his fingers curled around yours. His grip was firm, desperately like he had been drowning and finally found something to hold on to. That night marked a change, though he didn't say it aloud. Chunguk's action betrayed him. You began to notice subtle shifts, packages arriving at the mansion, white baby clothes stuck discreetly inside an expensive crib, assembled in a spare room without a word, vitamins placed beside your glass of water at breakfast. Sometimes late at night, you would stir awake to find him sitting in the chair beside your bed, his elbows on his knees, his gaze fixed on your belly, and once half asleep, you heard him whisper, his voice almost broken. Hey, little one, it's your father. I don't know if I can do this, but I'll try for you, for her. You pretended to sleep, tears spilling silent down your cheeks, but happiness in the Mafia world never lasted long. One night, as you left the mansion gates with your bodyguards, when fire erupted from the shadows, rivalmen had come and you were the target. Bullets whistled through the air, chaos exploding around you. You froze, panic gripping your chest, until a familiar voice roared, "Get her inside now." He appeared like a storm, gun in hand, fury carved into his face. His movements were ruthless, merciless, each shot precise, but his eyes kept flicking to you, desperation clear beneath the cold exterior. When one of the attackers broke through the line and reached for you, Jungkook went mad. He threw himself forward, knocking the man to the ground, his fist pounding until blood stained his knuckles. "Don't you dare touch her! Don't you dare touch my family!" The words rang louder than the gunfire. When the chaos finally ended, Jungkook rushed to you, his chest having blood streamed and his hands. He cupped your face, scanning you for injuries, his voice trembling. "Are you hurt? Tell me you're not hurt." I'm fine, thanks to you." For once he didn't hide, his forehead pressed against yours, his breath uneven. "You terrify me, why? Not because of what you are, but because of what you mean to me now. I thought I could live cold, detached, but I can't now when it's you, not when it's your child." Your tears spilled freely, your heart shattering and mending all at once, and there, in the aftermath of chaos, Jungkook finally admitted the truth, not in soft promises, but in the raw, unpolished way only he could. "And I'll protect both of you, even if it kills me." After 4 months, the sterile scent of the hospital filled the air, mixed with the faint beeping of machines. It had been hours since the contractions began, hours of pain and exhaustion, but now, as you lay back against the pillows, drenched in sweat and tears, you heard the first cry. A tiny piercing sound that cut straight through the walls of fear and exhaustion. Your baby's cry. The nurse gently placed the bundle in your arms, and the words seemed to blur. You stared down at the fragile little face, pink and scrunched, the tiniest fingers curling instinctively around your thumb. Tears slide down your cheeks as your heart swelled with a love so fierce. It felt you breathless, but when you looked up, what broke you even more was Jungkook. He stood frozen near the foot of the bed, his usual composure shattered, his dark eyes wide and wet. His hands hung uselessly at his sides, trembling as though he didn't know what to do. For the mafia heart, who had stared down Gunfire without flinching, his movement was what undid him. Would the father like to hold the baby? Chunguk's thought worked as if he couldn't form words. Finally, he nodded, stepping forward with a hesitation you had never seen in him before. His hands, that had once carried weapons stained with blood, now shook as the nurse carefully placed the newborn into his arms. He stared down at the tiny face, his breath catching. The baby wiggled softly, letting out a small sound, and Jungkook's chest rose and fell unevenly. "You are so small." His voice cracked, hoarse, almost reverent. He lifted his gaze to you, his eyes shining in a way you never thought possible. "Why, we made this." Your heart clenched, watching the cold man you once feared soften completely as he rocked your child carefully, as if afraid the world itself might break them. He leaned down slightly, his lips brushing the baby's forehead. "I don't care about what I said before. I was wrong. I thought I couldn't do this, but—" His voice broke again and he pulled the baby closer to his chest. "You're mine, both of you, and I swear nothing will ever touch you, not while I'm breathing." Tears streamed down your face as you reached for him, your hand finding his. He sat on the edge of the bed, balancing the baby in one arm while holding you with the other. For the first time since your forced marriage, the mansion didn't feel like a prison. His coolness wasn't a wall anymore, it was gone, melted by the warmth of the child asleep in his arms. And in that quiet hospital room, you realized something that once seemed impossible. John Chunguk, the cold mafia husband who swore he hated children, had become a father who loved more fiercely than anyone else ever could.